Hi there. Today I want to talk about a topic that most people don't really, I wouldn't say understand, but people tend to struggle with equations. Now, most people know what an equation is, and most people know how to solve equations. But I want to talk about creating an equation. Now, if you're given a scenario and then you have to create an equation and then solve that equation. Some people find it that they struggle with that. So that's what I want to talk about. Yes, we've talked in other movies, in other videos about solving equations and solving simultaneous equations. But today I want to talk about creating an equation when you don't have an equation. So that's the topic we have here. It's creating and solving simultaneous equations, cows and chickens example. Right, so this is just a quick one. And what we have is we have an example or question for cows and chickens, which wants us to solve. But now, if you give someone a question like that without telling them that it's linked to a simultaneous equation, people at times find it a bit hard to solve that. Now, what is an equation? An equation is a mathematical expression with one unknown. So we could have x as a known or y as a known. Now, the simplest thing that we know is we know that we can solve an equation quite easily if it is one unknown. So if an equation is one unknown, that is quite simple to solve. So you could have an equation that looks like x plus y is equals to 99. Then that becomes a bit difficult to solve because we've got two unknowns. So they say if you have two unknowns, we might have to do it using a simultaneous equation. I just want to explore these two. So solving an equation with one and solving a simultaneous equation where you have two unknowns, normally you're given is x and y, and then you have to solve for them. Now, I've got an example here that I've got here is a friend of mine sent me this example. They actually sent me as a test question that had nothing to do with maths. But I liked it so much, I thought, you know what, I'll do that as an example in my movies. Now, we have here the cows and chickens question that I've highlighted. So it says here, one day, a king decided to have a feast. Okay, and then he asked his workers to slaughter cows and chickens for the feast. Now, it doesn't tell us how many cows and feet that they slaughtered. But now that's our part. That's how we're going to be solving it. So it says, after the party and everything was done, they counted the feet and hooves for the cows and the heads for both animals and found 13 heads and 30 feet. How many cows and chickens were they? Now, I'll give you a chance to just solve that, and then you can maybe send your comments on the video, and then in a few days, maybe a couple of days, I'll upload the answer. But I'm sure you can solve this one. So let's have a go. Right, so this is the solution to the cows and chickens example. A very simple mathematical formula, but most people struggle with it at times. So I just thought I would upload this and answer the question to see how we can create simultaneous equations. You might be given more complex questions like total costs and fixed costs combined together, or you could be using the high-low method. But sometimes you might be given an expression where you could just simply solve it using an equation. Right, so I'll go back to the question that we had in the previous movie. It says cows and chicken. One day a king decided to have a feast. He asked his workers to slaughter cows and chickens for the feast. After the party and everything was done, they counted the feet, the hooves for the cows, and heads for both animals, and found that they had 13. That's the key to our answer there. 13 heads and 30 feet. How many cows and chickens were they? So now I've got in my solution, what I had to imagine first of all is I had to imagine how many chickens and cows we had. I had to imagine how many heads does a cow have? That's 1. How many feet or hooves? It's 4. What about a chicken? It's 2 and 1 head. I then said, let X be chickens and let Y be cows. Right? So we can solve this by forming 2 equations. The first equation is the equation for heads. Now we said chickens have 1 head, cows have 1 head. So for that, X plus Y representing the head would be equal to 13. Because we were told in the question that there is 13 heads that they need to find what belongs to what. And then I did a second equation. And the second equation is showing us, saying, let equation B be for the feet. Now we have X being the chickens and Y being the cow. So we have, if I just expand this, we have 2 for the chicken, X being the chicken, and then we've got 2X, and then we've got 4Y. So the cow has 4 feet or hoof, and that is equal to 30. Now that is the solution to the question. Once we solve that part, we have sorted it out and we have solved it. Now we can then solve this by solving the simultaneous equation, and we can solve this by substitution of the equation. So it says here, solving by substitution. X is equals to 13 minus Y. So we're making X the subject of the formula. And then we've got the B equation, we substituted into that. So now we have 2X, replacing the X with 13 minus Y. There. So 13 minus Y plus 4Y. Now this then simplifies to 26 minus 2Y plus 4Y is equals to 30. And then we've got 2Y is equals to 30 minus 26. And then Y is going to be 2. Now we found Y. Once we found Y, then it makes it easier to find X. So we just go back into either equation 2 or equation 1, but I'm going to take equation 1 because it's easy. We said X was 13 minus Y. So then 13 minus 2 is equals to 11. So your X is equals to 11. Now we can test this if we want. X, your chickens, 11 chickens. So that's 11 chickens, and Y is equals to 2. That is your cows. So if we say for heads, we have 2 cows, which is 2 heads, plus that for 11, that's 13 heads. And then for feet, we've got 11 chickens times 2 plus 2 cows times 4. That should be 22 plus 8, which is equals to 30. And that's how we've solved it. Now, you might have other questions that might need you to do this. So it's a bit easy if you think of it as solving an equation. Everything that you do, you need to form an equation.